So most of you know I don't make a ton of content. And before I started this channel, I kind of understood what the implications would be if I started making gun related content. So I was really kind of on the fence about it. At first, I just did like little gun reviews, part reviews. I didn't even really like to show my face. And there was a lot of reasons behind it. I'm pretty particular, pretty private person just in general. And it's not because I'm trying to hide anything. I just understand putting myself out there for the world to see. It opens up a lot of things, right? So uh, if you have your feelings hurt by like little nitpicky things, people might not agree with you. You're going to fight with people online about your personal beliefs or opinions. Not to mention just, you know, putting your stuff out there for the world to see. Um, all of it really kind of made me a little bit uncomfortable. So now that I'm over four figures, 1,000 people have decided to to subscribe to my channel, and I appreciate that. Like it feels good, right? At least there's 1,000 people out there who dig my content enough. Some very low effort, off the cuff type of stuff um, that they want to watch me. And I basically started this channel just kind of as a fun thing, a little bit of a hobby. I like to buy guns and gun parts. I've been doing that for a better part of almost 20 years now. I will say I've gotten more serious in my, it's more or less not a hobby anymore. It's more of a lifestyle. Before I could say my, interest in firearms and the shooting sports was more of a hobby. Now I feel like it's more of a necessity. So let me explain a few things. I don't even know where to begin because lately things have been becoming a little more serious when it comes to the gun community. For like most of us who watch other gun content online, the popular gun tubers have actually been getting a lot of strikes, a lot of bans. Um, I've been seeing that, plus all the ATF stuff going on with the pistol brace rulings. Before that, you had the force reset triggers. I mean, you name it. There's a lot of reasons, probably not to get into this content. And I'm just kind of here just to voice my opinions, more or less, on maybe why you shouldn't get into this because it's hard. I mean, it's not easy. Putting yourself out there for people to criticize your content with. It's not easy to want to put basically the kit that you use out there. There's a lot of people smarter than I am that can figure out a lot of things a lot better than I can. And if somebody really wanted to figure out who I was, where I lived, what I do, they could, right? And the YouTube overlords already have all that information. That was really a big concern for me. It wasn't the actual people itself watching, it was the people monitoring my content, right? And I know it's not just YouTube, Google, Facebook, big media, the government. I mean, everybody is literally watching these types of channels. And I guess I can kind of understand why, right? Like, there's definitely terrible, terrible things out there that happen in this country. Not so much as much in this country as it is in other parts of the world. And I have uh, a personal belief that is because of our Constitution. Like, we have basic human rights that our Constitution protects, that our forefathers, mind you, implemented, wrote into our Constitution, some basic principles and rights that we as human beings have that they felt was necessary to put into the government or to keep the government in check, more or less, right after winning a revolutionary war. So I really believe that these fundamental rights are something that has kept our country and is keeping our country in prosperity, more or less, keeping our people free. I wasn't even born an American citizen. I became naturalized at a relatively younger age, younger than I am now. I served in the U.S. military, U.S. Army, more specifically, Corps of Engineers, a Seance. Woo. Been overseas, did a couple tours. So I've seen what other places are like. I've lived in other places. Like America is not the only country I've ever lived in. I was born in another country. I've lived in Asia. I lived in South America. And that's not even including my tours where, over in the Middle East, which parts of Africa, parts of Eurasia, and parts of the world that aren't nice, more or less. And anyway, I can go off a tangent on my personal beliefs on being the world's police. I'm not going to go there. I'll just say that we shouldn't be the world's police, and I digress. We should be focusing on our own country because there is a lot of turmoil happening in our own country. And that's why I've started taking my hobby into a lifestyle. And I'm practicing more, I'm shooting more, I'm understanding my kit more, I'm buying better kit. Not to say that better kit's going to make you a better shooter, but once you become a better shooter, better kit will definitely make shooting easier, and you'll start to grasp concepts like your holdovers, hide over bore, what different things work better for certain situations. If you're building, your kit around mission specific scenarios. I mean, you could go on and on about, what different kit can do. Um, my thinking was when I started watching other gun tubers was, I mean, as much as I enjoy their content, I honestly believe most of the other gun tubers on YouTube are shills, right? They get free product or they get paid by the retailers or manufacturers to make content, and they push out a bunch of shit that people buy, including myself. I've fallen for it. I mean, stuff looks pretty sweet, looks pretty cool, right? Just as guilty of it. But my main thinking was like, well, how good is this stuff really? And honestly, like the main thing that I've realized in doing gun content and trying out different gear and kit more seriously is that uh, most of your reputable manufacturers and retailers, uh, they're making good stuff. Find out whatever works best for you in the scenarios that you want to train for, and kind of tailor it towards that. Unfortunately, sometimes you have to try out a few things. Some things might not work out for you. That's okay. It's part of the process, right? So you can see I've got just like, this isn't even everything. This is just like, so just a little display that I've done, just thinking that this was going to be my back display. I don't have a don't have a huge space or anything. So I don't know. I thought it was kind of cool, right? It's not trying to flex on you guys. Just this is what I work for, right? Um, because I feel like it's important. This stuff to me will never lose value, right? And the stuff that I don't like, I'll end up reselling to somebody, or keeping for spare parts, stuff like that. So, but let's get on to what gun content is, right? So if I'm not actively pushing products, like I'll just give my 2 cents on products that I've invested my own money into. None of these people know anything about me. They don't even probably know that I make content. They're definitely not giving me free ammo, free products. I'm not testing anything for them. They're not paying me. I'm just some regular guy that searches online for the cool guy gear that I see online, and I try to get the best price on it. And then I tell you, or try to tell you, whether or not it worked for me or not. So that's that's all I'm doing, right? just a just a regular blue collar, hardworking American. Pretty average across the road. My salary, my age, my ideologies, everything's basically pretty average. Other than the wife and 1.8 kids and then the white picket fence and shit. Don't really have all that, and that's all for a reason, right? So, I've been married before, didn't work out. Hope best for you. Uh, you know who you are if you're watching, but anyway, so gun content. Gun content lately has been getting shadow banned. It's always been shadow banned, right? But now it seems like there's strikes going on. There's a lot of stuff that we're not allowed doing, which I'm not entirely sure why. And personally, I thought because I'm not monetized, personally, because I thought I'm not big at all, that I could basically do what I wanted to, right? As long, like within certain confines. Like I'm not trying to be stupid about anything, right? I'm always trying to at least practice safe handling with my firearms. Show weapons are cleared, safe. If there's something in the magazine, you know what I mean. Like that, I try to show safe handling procedures of the firearms. I try to show problem solving when it comes to understanding the weapon system, what you can do to the weapon system, how to change out parts in the weapon system. I think that is very important information out there for people to have. That's kind of why I started to focus on more was actually the building, assembly, changing out parts aspect of firearms. M- Mostly like the Glock platform and the AR-15, because to me Glocks and the AR-15s are basically the same weapon system, just one's a pistol, one's a carbine, right? And I'm not going to even get into like the different barrel lengths and pistol braces and stocks, because I mean that shit doesn't even matter anyway anymore, right? So pistol brace is a stock, so might as well just throw a stock on it. I don't know. I don't know what's going to happen to all that. Hopefully, it gets thrown out in court. I think it will, but it's a little bit alarming, right? So I was going to make a video on the whole pistol brace ruling, but just I've been digging through all the garbage of information out there, and you know, I had to ask myself, right? What what hill am I willing to die on, right? For what cause am I willing to go to jail though for putting on a piece of plastic on and not complying, right, with the rules, regulations, and laws that have been implemented in our country, federally, statewide, county, whatever, right? Me being a law abiding gun owner, I try to comply with laws. And I think it behooves everyone to comply with laws. I mean, laws are out there to basically protect society, right? A civilized society is a polite one. I have no problem with complying with laws. How long are we going to comply with laws that are unconstitutional? How long are we going to be silenced? How long are we going to be our rights just slowly going to be pushed away, right? The things that made our country, the country that I live in now, the country that I wasn't even a citizen of, but I felt it was so necessary and important, and that millions of people are trying to move here basically every day because our country is great. And what makes our country great is our freedoms and the fact that the government doesn't control our freedoms, right? It's not up to the government to give us permission to do anything. We're human beings. Our right to believe what we want to, say what we want to within certain confines, right? Like there's definitely morality and common sense that should be used in context for all the constitutional rights. And I think that's where the gun controllers our mindset are. It's not necessarily that I completely disagree with gun control, right? There are certain individuals out there that absolutely shouldn't own a firearm. I I believe that. I also believe that any really nonviolent offenders that have done their time in the U.S. jail or prison system should probably get their voting rights and their gun rights back. You know, there's a lot of controversial things, right? So there's a lot of things I can't even do now on camera because it's considered uh, like taking apart, putting back together a firearm, right? Inserting a magazine into a weapon. Like if I were to unthread a suppressor, if I had a suppressor, if I take a flashlight, a mounted flashlight off my rifle system, if I were to take off my optic off this carbine setup, that would all be considered like modifying a firearm, right? But I guess it is what it is. And for a long time, I just made videos. I used copyrighted music. Um, to be fair, like I just got some strikes and some bans on my videos. They took down some of my videos here recently, and I honestly I thought it was a long time coming. Right? I just didn't care. Like I said, I didn't do anything unsafe. I always try to practice safe handling and stuff. But for the most part, it's like, I really didn't care what YouTube thought because I wasn't doing anything that I was ashamed of. I wasn't giving out harmful information. I wasn't actively really trying to be all that political or anything like that, right? So I was like, if I'm not going to make any money on this, I don't plan on monetizing this channel. To me, it's not a big deal, right? Put copyrighted music in. I kind of quit doing that because, I don't know. It just kind of steered away from that. But I was like, oh, people like music. I'll put music in my videos. Anyway, so where do we go from here? Like, as a community, right? And it doesn't matter if you're white, you're black, you're Asian, man, woman, if you're Democratic, if you're Republican, if you're no political party affiliation, right? Hell, it doesn't even really matter if you're a U.S. citizen or not, because you could apply this information to anywhere you live. Because even if you live in a highly regulated and controlled country across the globe somewhere, and I've been those places, right? I feel like your fundamental rights as a human being are still just that, right? There's some sayings that we have here in America, like, free men don't ask, and, when tyranny becomes law, rebellion is order, stuff like that. I think you can technically apply that to anywhere. And I don't know what the state of our country is coming to. And I felt it was necessary to start preparing myself, right? Just physically, and so I've been going to the gym more, working out my body so I can become stronger, physically stronger. I've been working out my mind. I've been consuming information that will better help me be better prepared for if, let's say, the electrical grid went down. How would you handle it? If you have a family, if they have medical needs, are you prepared for something like that to happen and still be the provider, to still be the person that could step up, right, and be there? Because I think we all have families, right? Most of us do, at least. We all have people that we care about. And if you don't, you care about yourself. How would you handle a grid down situation, right? How would you handle a total financial collapse where your money wasn't worth anything? Do you have any commodities available? Would you know how to set up a perimeter and defenses around your home? Would you even stay home? Do you have a bug out bag? Don't suggest it, but some people don't have that luxury, right? So, EMP, nuclear bomb hits a highly populated area, and you're in that populated area, you're going to have to get the hell out. Where are you going to go? All these things, right? So I've been trying to be better prepared for something like that because eventually, and I'm not saying this like as something that's going to happen sooner than later, but I think me being in my 30s and stuff, that this will probably happen within my lifetime. Something catastrophic will happen to either this country, the world, something. World War, I believe it. Tinfoil hat, believe what you believe. I'm just choosing to be prepared about it, right? And I'm not like this crazy like off in the woods like SHTF guy. No, I'm just a regular dude. I go to my job every day, but if I can just better prepare myself for scenarios like that, uh, you know, prepare for the worst, hope for the best. I hope something like that doesn't happen. I like my heat. I like my air conditioning. I like my internal combustion engines, right? I like being able to go to the restaurant and enjoy a nice big fat juicy ribeye. I like all that shit, right? I don't want to see that go away. I don't want to have to be making makeshift fires out there and setting up tents. No, that's I mean camping's cool, right? For about a week. I don't want to do that for the rest of my life. Anyway, so I've been taking the the shooting aspect of my training a lot more seriously. And it's because firearms will protect you. They protect me. Sometimes just brandishing one will deter someone from harming you, from trying to enter your home. I think it's worthwhile, right? I think if you're going to have a firearm in your own home and you're willing to use it, knowing how it works, how it operates, and training with it is so important. And that's the only reason why. Uh, that's not the only reason. That's one of the reasons why I make content, right? I'm not. I wasn't looking to be like some. I wanted to focus more or less on the firearm aspect and firearm parts aspect of the community, right? That's just, and it doesn't even look like I can do that anymore. And you two, if you're watching, like, we're not dangerous. We're not bad people. Like, I don't know what your aversion to firearms are. Like okay, I'm not completely dumb, right? I completely understand the idea that firearms are created to take life. Okay? I'm not dumb. I understand that aspect of it. But firearms are necessary for any country out there. Every country in the world relies on weaponry, right? And whether or not you believe that regular, average Joe citizens should be able to own them, I mean that's a personal opinion, right? I can actually see both sides of the argument. Okay, like for example, Japan. Japan's a pretty peaceful country. Has pretty restrictive gun control measures, right? I have to more or less think that's because of the culture and the society and not because of their gun control, but that's just my personal opinion. Right? If I absolutely knew that if we all just gave up our firearms and no one would ever be killed again, count me in. I as much money as I've invested into all this shit, you can have it, right? If I knew that that would make a difference, but it won't. Because the bad people out there, right? The bad people out there, they 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 don't care. They don't care whether we're armed or not. In fact, they would rather us be unarmed because then we're easy for the pickings. We're easy to rob. We're easy to murder. We're easy to rape. We're easy to do all that stuff too when we're unable to defend ourselves. And you could argue, oh well, get stronger, or take martial arts, or use another tool. Well, at that point, if I'm using my fist as self-defense, these are assault fists. If I'm using a hammer because it's the closest thing to me as a tool to defend myself, then that's an assault weapon. That's an assault hammer, right? So it, you can apply the assault thing to anything that you're using to assault somebody. It is what it is. And here's the thing, right? So let's play a make believe scenario here. Let's completely ban firearms, right? Let's say there were no firearms in the world. Like we just got rid of all of them. No other firearms are ever being made ever again, right? Completely gun free. You act like that's never happened in history before. Shh, making a video. Do you think just because all the firearms are gone, that death, mass murder, suicide, genocide, atrocities in the world wouldn't happen? No, I don't, because history has proved it, right? People enslave people, people put other people through almost mass genocide, right? The Egyptians enslaved the Jews like thousands and thousands a year ago. The Mongolians tried to do that to the Chinese. I mean, I could go on about all the civilizations previously, before black powder was ever invented, that committed extreme atrocities to people. I mean, Vlad the Impaler, the guy that Dracula was based off of, he didn't have guns. You should look up that guy and see what he did to people, right? It's not the guns, people. It's really not the guns. YouTube, you should look at history. Look at history. And then if you do take away, like, modern days, right? Let's say modern days. Take away the guns. Guess what people are going to do that want to commit really bad harm to others with? They're going to use chemicals. They're going to use explosives. They're going to use large moving objects like cars, or industrial equipment, right? To do mass harm to people. It's not going to stop. And it's unfortunate. It's an unfortunate part of just human nature. I won't even say human nature, because I think the majority of us are pretty, like, sane, right? Like we don't want to see anything bad happen to anybody else, me included, right? I'd love if we lived in a peaceful utopia, and I didn't have to worry about any of this. But that, just because you want it to be, doesn't make it so. Just because you think that on arming the general population is going to make the world safer, it's not. It never will. All, again, look up history, right? And you could argue whether or not that the people who won wars and people who are in power are the ones writing the history books. You could argue that, right? I'm not debating that. But when you look at history, you'll see that the governments that start disarming their populace, and I'm not even talking about guns, I'm talking about swords and knives and hammers and axes, and medieval weapons too, right? Those governments and nations and stuff that would ban their people from owning those things, they did terrible things to those people. And yes, I understand, like, as we modernize ourselves and become more well versed in culture and things of that sort, that we should be able to weed out some of that craziness, right? Whereas, like, generally people in the past didn't have the ability to travel and get access to information like we do now, and that's all really things that I think have mostly been an improvement to our world, right? It's also been a detriment, like the the crap that I see online is just, it's insane to me sometimes, which is all the more of a reason why I've decided to take more of precaution to protect myself, right? And I mean, that's all this is. It's a tool. It's all, this is a tool. All these things on it are just parts of the tool. It's just all how the tool's being used, right? I'm not calling anybody to violence. I'm not calling anybody to do anything crazy. In fact, if you're one of those people, I encourage you just to get help. You know, it's not that hard. There's a lot of outlets out there. You just have to be willing to humble yourself and ask for a little bit of help. That goes for everybody. If you're going through a hard time, all you gotta do is ask for a little bit of help. I know it's hard, right? It's not easy, because at that point you're admitting that there's something wrong with you or that you're weak, but it's okay. So I just kind of went off on a rant there, but I think it's important, right, that the content that I truly want to make, I'm not able to make. And if I do make it, none of you are going to see it. If it does get posted, the YouTube overlords are going to control the algorithm. They already control my speech. Like I wasn't careful on this particular video, but there's some key words that the machine hears and probably will flag the video with. And I don't understand, right? How does saying the word grape, we all know what you're saying, right? Well, we could abbreviate it OF instead of saying OnlyFans. Stuff like that. Like, are you serious? Do you think that we don't know what people are saying? Do you think by not saying the actual word, but people are still aware? You know, we're saying like it's like little freaking kids, right? You're gonna start spelling out your words and saying words that are like synonyms or rhyme with each other just to, because we think our kids can't figure it out. To me, it's kind of the same thing. We're treating adults like they're kids, and I understand kids watch the channel, or kids watch YouTube, right? All my content's age restricted anyway, so it's, I chose to do that. I know not everyone does, but here's the thing, right? Kids have always had access to things they shouldn't watch. They always will. Should we make it easy for them? Hell no, especially this day and age. But personal opinion, right? This is my personal opinion. This is not fact. The stuff that they're consuming today is more harmful, like the cartoons, the social media crap, like all that shit's way more harmful than stuff like this will ever be. In fact, I feel like our one of the problems today in America is the emasculation of men, the emasculation of women, promoting fatherless homes, making women believe that climbing the corporate ladder is going to make them feel fulfilled. And I'm not saying that it couldn't, right? But I will say, for the most part, women can do something that us men will never be able to do. And they should embrace it. And that's being a mother. That's giving birth and pushing out a human being from their body. Embrace that shit. That's awesome. It's beautiful. You guys have way more empathy and nurturing nature than men will ever have. So I don't see how that's such a horrible thing. And then everything's about race these days. Like when it becomes so racially divided. Like literally everything. And I'm like sitting over here on the sidelines because it's basically mostly like black and white, right? I'm like, man, I look at society for the most part. I'm like, I sure as hell glad I'm not a straight white man. I mean, basically am, right? call me a Twinkie, right? Yellow on the outside, white on the inside. Anyway, that's a racial joke. That's a joke about myself. Don't get offended. There's a whole lot wrong. There's a whole lot that our children are watching that are way worse than being self-sufficient will ever be, right? And that's what I feel like some of these like prepared channels and like gun channels, I mean, we're just kind of trying to teach some self-sufficiency, right? And you can make that argument with a lot of different things, like any do-it-yourselfers, people who work on their cars and do cool things in their home and stuff like that. That's all self-sufficiency, learning how to do it yourself instead of relying on somebody else. And that's, for the most part, that's what we're pushing. That's what I'm pushing, right? When I'm showing people how to disassemble and safety check firearms and how to put them together, how to problem solve, what stuff like that, right? That's self sufficiency. Instead of having to take it to a gunsmith, do it yourself. There might be a time where you won't be able to go to a gunsmith. You ever thought about that? There might be a time where, you can't just drive to a car mechanic to get your car fixed. Wouldn't it be handy to know how to do that yourself? Like, when has become, when has self sufficiency become a crime, or become something that isn't looked up to? And hate to say it, but the government doesn't want us self sufficient. Government wants us reliant on them, right? UBI, Universal Basic Income, fellow Asian man, Andrew Yang, who I thought wasn't terrible for someone of opposite political view, right? I don't agree with UBI, but that's just an example. Welfare, food stamps, and all these programs. Yeah, they're Section 8. They're all programs like made to help people. I get it. But what ends up happening is that generations upon generations becoming dependent on it. They become dependent on the government. I don't want to be dependent on anything, right? I am. I'm dependent on my paychecks. I'm dependent on the monetary system, because without money, I can't can't really live. But the only reason I depend on money is because I need money to buy shit, right? Most, believe it or not, about 50% of the money that you make goes to taxes. They tax your paycheck. They tax things that you buy. If you sell something, they want to tax that. If you give something, they want to tax that. I mean, literally, 50 to 60% of everyone's income is being taxed. It just is what it is. I still live pretty comfortable though, so I I'd like to live more comfortable, but for the most part, I feel pretty fortunate to live in a place where I can flip on a switch, lights come on. My home is climate controlled. I open my fridge and I'll just stand there. I'm like, what the hell do I want to eat? That's that's pretty cool. I can turn on this little lever, right, and then fresh running water comes out that I can drink, right? And not only do I drink it, do I bathe in that shit, right? I'm so rich, I can bathe in clean water. How about that? Do you know that most of the world out there don't have those luxuries? They don't. That's why people are literally dying to get here in America. And it's wonderful. I would wish everybody have those luxuries in life, but unfortunately, we as American people cannot sustain the world to have all those things. It's unfortunate, but it is what it is. Someone once told me, if you can't help yourself, you can't help other people. And I say that rings true on smaller scales, larger scales, right? So the if the U.S. can't help themselves, how the hell are they going to help other countries? And there's a lot going on in this world, right? So they're trying to implement restrictive gun control measures in the United States, yet they just left billions of automatic weapons and Apache helicopters and missiles over in Afghanistan. You know, what was that, year and a half ago, something like that. And then they're sending like, what was it, 44, $50 billion in weapons to the Ukraine. Okay, so you want to disarm Americans, but you want to arm other parts of the country. Makes sense to me. And let me tell you a little bit about why I started to make this video. It's because, again, I'm really trying to warn people not to get into this. And I mean, if you enjoy your privacy, if you enjoy your freedom, just don't post anything gun related. Don't even put your face on camera. Like, it's not even worth it. It really isn't. So I'm going to tell you a little bit about my experience, my recent experiences, and why I haven't been posting content. And then I'll let you decide whether or not you want to join, right? Whether or not you feel like this would be a worthwhile endeavor for you to do too. So obviously, I buy firearms, I buy firearm parts, I buy ammunition, right? And I do YouTube videos. Didn't think that much of it. Well, turns out, right? I bought a bunch of Glock lowers. This was a few months ago. Bunch of like just complete Glock lowers. I was going to make a couple of Glock builds. Picked up 2 of them. Third one got denied, right? They didn't tell me why I got denied. I just kind of let it go. I let the gun shop have it. Because it was going to cost like $75 for the background check. Plus, like, there was like fees involved, time, not to mention I have to take time off in order to get my fingerprinting done. It would have cost me more to get the background check, the fingerprints redone again, than just to let it go, right? I mean, the stupid Glock 17 Gen 5 lower only cost me like $120. I was going to lose more money in the time that I needed to take off to go get my fingerprints done. That lower cost me. But I mean, the money is not the issue, right? The issue is I'm not going to say how many firearms that I've purchased, but I've purchased a lot of firearms in like the last 2 years. And I've been purchasing firearms. I'm a CCW holder. I've been buying firearms for a long time. Basically, is what I'm trying to say. I'm not a prohibited person. They around the same time where like I was starting to get strikes on my channel, videos were being taken down, is when all this started to happen. And I'm not saying correlation equals causation or wherever that saying is, right? But some strange things started to happen. I got denied on a 4473. And what's interesting is that like literally a month ago, here you go. Here's a Radian AX556 lower that I bought, brand new, like $430, brand new. I've bought another gun since then, so I don't know why I got denied then. Another thing that happened was my mail. My not just my mail. I don't like not my enveloped mail, but like my ammunition that I bought online, the gun parts that I bought online, was starting to go to other post offices. And when I looked up those post offices, they were the Inspector General post offices. So they were inspecting my mail and taking days to look at it, being resealed in the box. I could tell someone opened it, rummaged through it, and sealed it back up. All my stuff was there, not right. The package got to me, What's the big deal? I mean, again, I don't know if correlation equals causation, but all this stuff, like weird stuff started to happen. Like, why are they going through my mail? Why am I getting denied on my background checks? I don't know. I think it's because of YouTube. And YouTube, if you're doing this to people, why? Why? If not, then I guess it's just some weird quinky dinky then, isn't it? But we're not the bad people here. In fact, we welcome you, right? Like if you don't want to be involved in firearms, that's cool too, right? But for example, if you're a 110-pound woman, 4'11", 110 pounds, whatever, it what's the great equalizer? Like if four men approached you and tried to do harm to you, well, how are you going to defend yourself? With some martial arts? No, that's it's physics, right? A 4'11", 110-pound woman has no chance against one like 5'8", 180-pound man. It's just physics. Like you could get lucky, punch him in the nuts, kick him in the nuts, scratch him, use pepper spray. I mean, there are methods that will work, but generally, for the most part, it's going to be a bad day for the woman. And I'm not saying that to be mean. I'm just saying that as like a reality check, right? I want these women, I want these people who are weaker, who aren't as big, who don't have the aggressiveness as criminals or people who are just generally aggressive and do bad things to people. I want them to be able to protect themselves, right? Having that knowledge. And I feel like a lot of the bad things that happen with firearms, it's mainly due to negligence and fire, like people not using firearm safety. I mean, look at Alec Baldwin, right? We're not talking about that, are we? There is literally no mechanical way that that revolver could have gone off without him pulling the trigger. And then you add on the fact that he was pointing it at somebody. Never point a weapon at anything you're not willing to destroy. Keep your finger off the trigger until you're ready to shoot. I mean, it's pretty simple, right? I mean, if he would have just exercised 2 out of the 4 gun safety rules, he'd be okay, and that woman would still be alive. But anyway, I've gone on for a while, and just like a non-scripted little rant, right? I don't even know if I'm going to be able to post this, right? My big thing is I'll do one take, I'll somewhat look at the one take, and then I'll upload it, right? Low effort content. I go off the cuff. I don't really have. I got some like ideas that I want to talk about and stuff, but I think it's important for this stuff to be said, because there might be people out there who want to start posting cool guy videos, right? You see like Grantham, Brandon Herrera, Demolition Ranch. You're like, oh man, I want to do that. It looks so cool. It is. That looks cool as shit. That wasn't like my thinking behind it. I actually thought like, well, I think these guys are getting paid to say good things. I'm going to see if these things are actually pretty good things. And for the most part, but most of like the cool guy gear, like you see, I got a DDM 4V7 upper, Daniel Defense, Vortex Razor. I got some Radiant gear, B5 systems, Cloud Defense. Like, got some decent kit on here. It's good. It's pretty good, right? Is this Razor like double or triple a Vortex PST Gen 2? Yeah, not really. Just my opinion. It's still good. The glass is great. Anyway, so this is just a tool, people. And there comes a point where like, what is the line for the gun community, right? We're this isn't legal advice, and by no means am I a lawyer, but this is just for entertainment purposes only. But at what point is just straight up noncompliance the only way? When tyranny is law, rebellion is order. I believe a certain founding forefather used to say that. And because I honestly never had a conversation with any of our founding forefathers before, but I think they implemented the Constitution to keep a tyrannical government from uprising again, and basically telling them that they couldn't live as free men and women. I don't know about you. I like the country that I live in. Do I think it could be better? We could strive to make it a better place. Absolutely, absolutely. I think our differences of opinions kind of keep us all in check. I think having a Democratic Party and Republican Party is still very important, right? Checks and balance system, the executive, legislative, judicial branches. All this stuff was really thought out and implemented in a way that made it was supposed to make it good for our country and its citizens. I do challenge anybody, though, who believes that the Second Amendment was about hunting and black powder, firearms, and stuff like that, to really look into why the Second Amendment was written. And our forefounders, or the people who founded our country, wrote the Constitution, found it so important to put it as the second part of the Constitution. Like, they didn't put it like as like the 8th, 9th, 13th, 24th thing in the Constitution. It was the second. So they must have really thought that shit was important, right? The right of the people to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed. Yeah. Because without that right, all their other rights can be trampled on and taken away. Just a thought. But we are not the bad people. I am not the bad person, YouTube. Just because I have this this tool slinged around me does not mean that I'm like this crazy right extremist, right? I've got, you can't really see it because I've got a whole bunch of shit in front of it, but I've got a "Do Not Tread on Me" flag. I've got a Mullen flag there, a U.S. Army flag there. I got an American flag there. I'm some crazy person. Just a normal guy, hardworking guy. Pay my taxes. I've got a daughter, right? I got something to live for. Don't have any blood family that I'm aware of, but I have a family that calls me a family. I've got friends that I care about. I care about this country, the people in it. It saddens me when I see terrible things happen and hear about terrible things happen, right? I'm not a bad person. We're not bad people. There are bad people out there, but you're never going to be able to get rid of all the bad people. All you can do is prepare yourself and defend yourself from them, right? Just don't try not to take my ability to do that. Like, stop censoring my speech, our speech, and what we can say. We have to use little keywords and clue words and things that rhyme together, right? That's literally affecting speech. And when did being offended become a crime, right? Like, everyone's like offended and it's causing PTSD. Sorry, that's not PTSD. It's not. I'm not going to explain to you what PTSD is, but there are people out there who have experienced some truly horrific things, right? And it's not just being offended. Woman in Kivu strangling her infant baby daughter to death to save her baby daughter from being raped to death by the local militia that was coming through to steal her children and to be in their militia, right? The last daughter that she had was deemed too weak, so the militia came in and raped her baby daughter to death. That can cause PTSD, right? She walks to a fresh water source, being controlled again by that local militia, usually. Walks to a fresh water source every day with a stick on her head and like 4 or 5 gallon buckets. She has to fill up, what, 5 miles there? Empty buckets. 5 miles back with full water. And that's the water that she uses to clean with. That's the water she uses to cook with. That's all her water for the day. She has to do that shit every day. Lives in a little hut, right? Invites me in. Wants to cook me a bowl of rice with what little food that she has. That's rough, right? You getting your feelings hurt, that's not rough. Sorry. That that shit bothers me, right? Where people say they have PTSD because some man broke up with them or didn't want to date them. No, sorry, it's not. It's not. Well, people across the world who are struggling just for daily survival, right? Those people have the right to complain and uh, say they have PTSD. But you know what's weird? When I talk to those people, when I've had conversations with them, they're not really complaining. It's really odd. Like if there's anybody out there that should be complaining, it should be them. Actually, most of their complaints have to do with like their own government system and their inability to protect themselves. Because guess what? Most of those people in those countries, they're not. They're like their guns are completely banned. They wish they had the ability to protect themselves from the militia, right? I say militia, but they're like warring tribesmen, people who control the territories out there, right? They're little small armies. I guess that's what you consider a militia because people think militia here and they automatically just think negative connotation, right? Like we're some like weirdos camping out and doing weird shit in the woods, but it's not like that, right? It's just you know it's like okay in the army days we had squads and platoons and brigades, companies, right? Just you just squad up with a couple of people that you trust that are like your brothers and sisters and you know how to do things together. That's what a militia is. It could be a community. Consider the Amish, I guess, a militia in a sense, right? But anyway, I digress. There's a lot to intake in this video, and like I said, I don't even know if this video is even going to make it all the way onto YouTube, and I don't even know if you, the viewer, are going to be able to sit down and get through just a complete off the cuff, probably like I'm guessing like 45-minute rant on just stuff you already know, I guess, for the most part. If you have any sort of like common sense or cognitive thinking, you already know what I'm saying. But I think it needs to be said more because it's like I feel like most of the world is blind to it. And I think it would behoove everyone just to be a little more independent, a little more self-sufficient, um, a little more able, just a little more able, right? And I don't know what I plan on doing with this channel anymore. But we shall see. But if you made it all the way through and you're one of my 1,000 subscribers, thank you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart. Like, I appreciate all the comments that I've gotten. Um, I've tried to answer some questions that aren't too personal or just aren't completely dumb. Sorry, I'm not going to sell you a gun on YouTube. Stuff like that, right? Like, other than like weird stuff like that, I try to get back to most people, right? But thanks for the support. And maybe if we all got on video and said this stuff, something could happen. But just by me saying something, it's not going to do anything, right? We have to physically do something, right? And if you don't agree with something, like, we as constituents can call our senators or congressmen, stuff like that, and whatever. I don't think they give a shit about us, to be honest with you. They care about our votes, so I guess in a sense they do, but that's the only reason they care about us. They don't actually care about what we think. They just want to suck on that government teat, right? Like Joe Biden has for like the past 50 years. Hasn't had a job, like a true job, um, ever. Right? And I think it would be an important question. Maybe just to, and this goes, I'm not just pointing out Joe Biden, I'm talking about like lifelong politicians. Mitch McConnell, I don't know if he's ever had a real job either, right? But anyway, how these politicians who, are making, $120,000 a year salaries, how do they become like tens of millionaires and billionaires? I'm not sure. This seems a little fishy to me, but I don't know. Maybe they spend their money a little wiser. I sure as hell bet you that Joe Biden could probably buy all this just at a whim. His platoon of personal armed security probably has way better shit than this. Right? This is just ain't nothing. Anyway, thanks for watching, guys. And I'm actually interested this time, like truly interested what you guys think, because it's coming to a head. Like this pistol brace rolling, not looking good. Thanks for watching, guys.